invented history. But I'd like to point to this. This is a genuine place where Robert Burns grew up till he was age 7 in Alloway. It's the Alloway Cottage. In front of it had a bowling green, which probably the poet never saw, but it was otherwise a genuine, exactly as it was. And then I read in the Glasgow Herald that £250,000 was going to be spent in making it more authentic. And I just wondered how you could make more authentic. So not only do we think of inventing history, but we actually want to reinvent the historical artifacts that actually are genuine. So I think let's just run this because it's very self-explanatory. We're going to meet the man responsible for re-authenticizing Burns Cottage. More authentic. The Alloway Cottage, which Robert Burns left when he was 7 years old, had just been re-authenticized at the cost of £285,000.
Well, the general idea was to create something much more authentic, much more in line with what the cottage would have appeared at the time when the Burns family lived here. The design consultant suggested that in order to give it an improved setting, it would be better to create a kale yard and also provide a dry staging out, which has, in my opinion, made a big difference to the outside appearance. When you're looking at the cottage now from within the cottage and museum grounds, it is in a much more authentic setting.
There's an archaeological dig here to find out how these walls went.
No, this was done by the consultants. No archaeological work of any kind. The design consultants decided it was necessary to make the living room much more authentic and realistic, much more in keeping with the times when the Burns family lived here. We removed the ceiling and exposed all the timber work. This is where the two brothers would probably have slept, and many a night would have listened to the stories which were going on around the fire.
Very funny smell.
Yes, well, the idea of the design consultants, which we accepted very readily, was to create a realistic visit, and that included a smell, which of course is coming from the buyer.
Okay, we switch that off. Thank you. Well, that's pretty extraordinary. The extraordinary thing now is they're going to spend, the National Trust, £9 million to make it even more authentic. The other strange thing about this is, in 1902, at the St. Louis Exposition, the Caledonian Societies of America built a replica of Burns Cottage in St. Louis, complete with the earth floor and its ceiling, which has now been taken out. And that was then miraculously transposed to Georgia, to Atlanta. And on Peach Avenue now, you can see a more authentic, for me, and for everybody else, I think too, Burns Cottage in Peach Avenue, Atlanta. So we do live in quite strange times. Since that was an STV film, 1994, called Folklore, I wanted to call it the Cultural Set-Aside (Scotland) Act. That wasn't too Tony for STV at the time, but in a sense, we're like farmers laying aside our fields in order to get subsidies and maybe wildlife culture. But laying aside our culture for tourism is quite extraordinary. And I think, without saying very many words, I'd just like you to see a walk I took down the Royal Mile of Edinburgh 2 days ago. So I'm going to put it silent so you just can contemplate this. Not so much the tourist tat, but the rather gruesome dark tourism of the little ghosts that jump out at you during the night, especially during the summer, one is called the poltergeist, Mackenzie poltergeist, and there's a little health warning saying this may cause mental problems by some of this sensitive people. I mean, it's almost beyond words what's going down the Royal Mile now. So we'll just look at this very carefully without any, there's no sound on this. And these statements are from Edinburgh Airport, welcoming tourists in. So the statements are actually quotations of British Airways. long way from Patrick Geddes. So I don't know if you're a tourist, what your expectations coming through the airport, reading these wonderful slogans, and then seeing one of the great streets of Europe where one could shake the hands of 50 geniuses in the 18th century, and now portrayed by these extraordinary shops. But what is kitsch, really? I mean, it's very popular. We have so many different ways of explaining Scottishness. But it is extraordinary that, that the reality of this popular kitsch exceeds any kind of concept of historical reality on that street. I mean, today's kitsch could be tomorrow's art, and tomorrow's art is probably tomorrow's kitsch, or today's kitsch is tomorrow's art. Interesting, who the greatest painter, the most successful painter to come out of Scotland is Jack Vettriano. It is not represented in any gallery. His paintings win the top prices of paintings sold in Scotland. Glen Eagles won almost £1 million. I came out of the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and there was a stand of Vettriano's prints selling, and they outsell Picasso and Monet. So it's very interesting to think, at the time of the Impressionists, the great painter Bouguereau was earning £2,000, £3,000, whereas you could buy an Impressionist probably for £25. And so things kind of reverse. But I think when it becomes more sinister is when the National Organisation for Protecting Buildings, Historic Scotland, plays the same game. So they've actually invented history in a most, I find, very unacceptable way. They've taken genuine places like Stirling Castle, one of the great Renaissance buildings in the UK, probably one of the first after the Linlithgow Palace, and they've made it into a parlor of I think, appalling, misunderstood, completely invented history.